them, support measures to increase the retention of women in education, to increase the retention of women in education, and promote the enrollment in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These are the subjects. Mr. Speaker, order our own educational structure. Paragraph 19. We also address them. But you know, as I said, when they are dealing with carcass, we are doing with structural something. Structural say something. Structural system for education. And I read verbatim because this is close to our heart. And I read, Mr. Speaker, paragraph 19 of the presidential speech. It is often said that to educate a woman is to educate a nation. Hey, Mr. Speaker, we come to the gender. How are we going to address the gender parity? With education and other factors. We are going to be here till midnight. You wait for me. Oversight. You know, one good thing I like in the house. No matter what political differences we have, there are times where we meet, we make funds, and we have respect for one another. And I believe in that. The point we are making is really to prove to our colleagues that they need to encourage us so that we can promote the vision for education. So that's the reason I said I'm not going to politicize it. But what I have done also to create a symbiotic relationship for education between me and them. We are we can meet and we are can criticize and tell them more. He said, for my government, there is no negotiable. That is education for girls and women. He said, non-negotiable. He went on now. Records of girls are now enrolled at all levels of education in this country. Groundbreaking numbers of girls are now opting to study STEM disciplines, as our policy assured free STEM education for girls from class 1 to the completion of universities. Parents no longer resist sending their daughters to school. All across the country, they now believe that with tuition paid by my government, teaching and learning materials provided by my government, school feeding is in most parts of the country provided by my government, healthcare, good school infrastructure provided by my government. Parents now ask, why not now? Why not now? So what we have done in this symbiotic governance relationship, we have now looked at their own manifesto and put that in a more structural form to suit our educational business we are doing to look at STEMs. In that also, they accepted by breaks in their manifesto in page 18 and 16. They said facilitate student loan for tuition and books. So what we have done is not only having this talking about this education, but this very parliament, access to universities and schools, also affordability is now assured by enacting into law the student loan scheme. You have accepted it in your manifesto, page 19. We have started preparing for public exams. You have done that. You also have that one in your manifesto. But what is very interesting, Mr. Speaker, I like with them, but they said they are saying SO2, but some of the boards they don't get fear. I quite agree. You see, I said, in terms of rolling out proper governance, there is difference between politics and governance. There's complete from outside. When some of these things are being implemented, people behind the scenes, they have their own motive, Mr. Speaker. So when these things keep on coming, there is no fear, there is no this. I take them very seriously. So in the manifesto in page 17, he said, provide free bus services to school-going pupils. You endorse that one. That's what I can borrow from your manifesto. So we have bus services. But what we are going to do now as colleagues, we are representing people. You know, as we have opined in our various contributions, we are looking at implementing government policy in stricter sense of terms. How are they being rolled out? Who are the defaulters? Who are stifling them? So we can all come together to address them. So without fears, as I have said in the Marquette City Council, other places, we need to come together as a nation, members of parliament, our oversight role, to ensure that we go and look for the abnormalities are addressed. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, in the business of manifesto, which we have all agreed, together with my colleagues from the APC side, from their manifesto, somebody said, my colleague Fotokolile, it's not removing women from offices. This whole gender parity is about, or women's empowerment. It's not when you remove them. The president, from the Constitution, Section 61, he has the power to hire and power. That is the executive, Mr. Speaker. But you know, what is very striking is a political space we have decided to give our female counterparts to address the issue of gender parity and women's empowerment. No joke about it. We need to take it very seriously. So he used education. He said, what is good when you educate a woman, you educate a nation? That is a broad statement. We should capture the moment. So what we are talking about is to address the issue of gender parity, the space given to them, the space given to women. Let us make use of it. Let us believe that we are now actualizing our own policy drive into actual implementation. So what is consistent about this? In paragraph 133 of the presidential speech of 2021, Mr. Speaker, let me read that provisions. In my opening statement, I said, I am looking forward for the women in this house. Capture the moment. Follow President Biu. This is the time you are giving a space to address gender parity and women's empowerment. If he fails to do so, it's a disservice to this nation. And those who are in position of trust, if they fail to capture the political will by President Biu, will be on them. It's just a lip service they are doing. We want to fight women's empowerment, gender parity. For us, on this other side, we are not going to politicize it. We are going to make sure that it happens. Because God created us the same. He is like an image. Why by policies we should discriminate against our female counterparts? Page 133, our willingness to address this gender parity and women's empowerment. 133. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, under the rubric Gender Women's Empowerment, SGB, Social Welfare and Human Rights, paragraph 133, sir. More measures to concretize and operationalize the gender equality and women's empowerment policy will be presented. So he prepared our mind over the coming years. Women's empowerment programs will be a priority. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I have read this one carefully now so I will understand. So in 2021, what he did is just to introduce, talk about the policy. In 2022, he has now looked at the implementation aspect of this policy. So, having said that, first, he acknowledged that if you want to educate, if you educate a woman, you educate your whole nation. But addressing some of these issues, in page 116, talking about women with disabilities. Women with disabilities. Let me read that provision. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to take my time to read all the provisions because it's very important in the presidential speech. 116. 116. We should not be talking from space. We should show commitment by the documents we have amongst us. He said, my government continues to create an inclusive society. We recently submitted to the Global Disability Summit Secretariat the nation's accountability report on progress made in 6 commitment areas on addressing stigma and discrimination. So this is in line with our colleagues about disability in terms of education. Inclusive education, socio-economic empowerment, innovation and technology, disaggregated data and women with disabilities, women with disabilities. My government is also reviewing the Persons with Disability Act 2011 to bring it in line with international best practice. Legislation will be brought forward soon. One good thing about President Bill, he acknowledges the fact that Parliament is inclusive and is part of his administration. So for every time he's talking about policy, he will ensure that Parliament is involved. So inclusive government. Even when he's saying my government, at the end of the day, you will say, I will bring it to Parliament for legislations. So with the issue of disability, these are challenging issues we have. So if we have mentioned both in the SIP manifesto and without on the APC, we should address them by reviewing the laws. And it's imperative of all of us. When that bill comes to Parliament, let us critique it, look at it carefully, address the issue of gender disability. How our female counterparts are affected. We should fight against discrimination in the educational sector, in every place we are working. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, he again went forward. We recently enacted the anti-human trafficking law. He also addressed that one with migrant smuggling. We have just enacted the law in paragraph 120. Paragraph 120, my brothers. It's very clear that, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, trafficking paragraph, when you go towards the fifth line, the third line of that, our nation has a plan against trafficking in persons, especially women and children, is being implemented. Most significantly, I would like to register my sincere appreciations to this Parliament for recently enacting the Anti-Human Trafficking and Migrant Smuggling Act 2022. We should address this one. We should look at it. And honorable colleagues, on that very day, we are very passionate about even, Mr. Speaker, you said the fines that you are going to levy about the anti-human trafficking should not be mortgaging the human rights of people. We should get more fines. We should not make crime lucrative, but make them more punishable. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, and what we did here is to ensure that we make strong legislation so that people can understand what we are doing. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, he again said in paragraph 111, the third to last paragraph, more women are being trained under tourism. You see, when we are talking about policies, he's now trying to drive the policies, MDA by MDA, pushing those policies as stated in paragraph 133 in 2021, and try to ensure that there are directives given now. The third to last paragraph in paragraph 111, and I read. More women are being trained and provided with startup funds to operate in the sector. Additional measures and legislation will be brought to Parliament. So he's saying we should create space in the tourism sector for women. This is paramount to us, and we have to do it. Because he made commitment in his policy drive, introducing it, that I bring forward now policies and specify them and drive them MDA by MDA to ensure that we get our work done for addressing the gender and women's empowerment issue. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, again, talking about gender parity in the mining sector. In the mining sector, it is very key for us because the artisanal mining is creating so many jobs for women, and most of the women are the breadwinners of our homes. They provide for their homes. So in paragraph 125, 108, he said undermining gender parity in workforce. He said export to commodities, to community development, gender parity in workforce in the mining sector must be addressed. When we went to Tokyo in the bid to give the the 5 billion plus for community development. The women, when they were giving statements by various speakers, they said, oh, gender equality, gender rights, women's empowerment. We had that one very clear. And the policy drive for those mining areas, be artisanal, be large-scale mining, all of us should be very sensitive in looking at the gender sensitivity in those areas of mining, so that we can unanimously address this gender parity in various sectors in our workplaces. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I now talk to you about the issue you addressed in paragraph 125. In paragraph 125, page 28. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I need your attention on this one. And the leader of the opposition. And I'm going to read. Because the business of gender, it has nothing to do with you representing people. But we are seeing people are driving gender policy, especially women in position of trust. They are trying to play it. That's why I'm going through page by page, paragraph by paragraph, so they can take it very seriously. And this paragraph, the president has challenged us in paragraph 125. With the bill we have in front of us, how are we going to address gender parity? I'll let you read. With gender family on our agenda. We have commenced gender mainstreaming in MDs. This I will justify now. To facilitate the integration of gender issues within sectoral policies, plans, and programs, and to ensure intentional gender beneficiary targeting. More significantly, my government has developed the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Bill. My government has developed the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Bill to improve women's political and economic empowerment. To improve women's political and economic empowerment. Legislations have been laid in this parliament, and I appeal, I join in to appeal to all members, and I appeal to all of us who believe in an inclusive and equal future for every Sierra Leonean to make sure the best decisions for the future of this nation and pass the gender empowerment bill in this house. End of statement. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, if we believe, and I challenge our female folks in the house and beyond, if they believe that they are given a space from a policy drive to implementations, they should not lag behind. If they fail to do so, it's a disservice to this nation. This is the moment. Let them come to it. Not by lip service, but by actions. Join President Bio. He is not asking for votes, but he's serving his conscience between him and God that he must address the injustice meted out to women. He must address the injustice meted out to women. They have suffered during the interregnum. They cannot continue to suffer. They cannot. So for that one, I rest my case with you women. Push so that gender equality, women's empowerment, will be achieved under this administration. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I have given you challenge, and I hope and I pray we will live by that and we move towards that. You know, let us talk about agriculture. You know, first, this also is not a political statement. We should be really mindful of what we are doing. We should be really mindful about it. Mr. Speaker, all of us are victims of treating agriculture with some amount of carelessness or lack of policies given. We are all guilty of that. Being in position of trust, not in position of trust. We have in years coming up, we have attributed agricultural practice to drop out business. So that's why we have huge amount of our farmers are subsistence farmers. Huge some of them are doing subsistence farming. So in addressing it, in paragraph 40 of the presidential speech. Paragraph 40, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just read the first sentence. Paragraph 40, under food security. It said food security is not merely about filling people's stomach or guaranteeing that people can buy food in markets. Affordable, safe, and sufficient food supply is also a matter of national security. First, we have to make sure that those who are supporting, those who are facilitating the agricultural products, those who are working with the Ministry of Agriculture, we give them full support so that we can achieve food security in various sectors. We have the private sectors who are in charge of facilitating other programs within the agricultural sector. We must reckon with that, and we must push it. So we have the chairman of the committees. On the other side, thank you very much. I believe in addressing some of these issues, you step up the oversight role and ensure that we drive it positively. But what is very striking, Mr. Speaker, is the data I've read from reputable institutions making comparative analysis, talking about the food security, vulnerable analysis given by the World Food Programs and with that of the Food and Agricultural Organizations. These are reputable organizations. They did an assessment for vulnerable households. In 2015, they did the assessment. 49.8% in 2015, people were having less food intake or consume less food in their homes, whether out of what circumstances, we don't know. But that will make them not so active in life, or at the end of the day, they are not in full life to please their national activities in terms of active life. So they had challenges. They did that survey for vulnerable homes. But what is appalling is that in 2010, for the same vulnerable homes, there is sharp increase from 49.8%, that of 2010, to 45% to 49.8%. Huge increase. So they are saying, if the statistics remain like this, as a organization, in 2015 and 2010, we have 45% access to vulnerable homes, access to food. And 2015, you understand, there's an increase. There's an alarm for concern. And further, the global hunger index also went further in 2017. There are so many. That's why I started with all of us need to blame ourselves in case of how we implement our policies in terms of agriculture. We don't need to politicize at all. We need to face the reality so we can enhance food security. Food security is a national concern. It's a national human right, and it's a human right and national security issues now. We should be seen addressing them with all sincerity of purpose. So what they did in 2017, very alarming again. They ranked Sierra Leone as the third hungriest country in the world. Third. And they said, because of the malnourishment, they compared us with other number of countries. They compared us to Guinea and Ghana. Israel, for that assessment, we had for the under-malnourished, we had 30% point something. For Guinea, it's about 26% plus, 26%. For Ghana, it's 16.6%, something like that. If my memory can serve me well, respectively. This is an alarming situation. The figure, if you look at the projections, what they did for the other years, even now as I speak, the figures are a little bit alarming. So we should address the food security issues. As President said, it's not only talk about food in the stomach, but how do we impact on food security, production, so that our people cannot go hungry? That is sacred. That is good for every administration. So, in the bid to solve that problem, something came out very worrying, all of us. You know, we have the Maputo declaration that we should allocate 10% of our GDP to agriculture. So it came again. In 2017, after the appalling data came out, 4.1% was allocated to agriculture. And let me tell you, the trend has continued in this trajectory. We should try and change the narrative. We said it's a new direction. Let us put our efforts together. If we think food security, human rights issues, if we think we want to have food stored for our people, if we are representing our people, let us all come together to solve the problem of food security. Our staple food, we are importing it. Most of the food we consume, we are importing them. It's really appalling. But what you have done now, as government, we have this, what you call smart design to boost rice production. Smart design to boost rice production. But we are still facing some challenges. So whilst we are trying to boost the rice production, we also have to address the sustainability in food production in most vulnerable areas for the vulnerable communities. That is very key. We cannot be talking about agriculture, we don't concern about people who are very vulnerable. That's a huge concern. So in the financial year 2022, that is why I said we should not politicize by any means, try to skew the bit of food security as if we want to be political gains. We should address it with all sincerity of purpose. So what we have done in this financial year 2022, we have allocated 80.8 billion or 6 billion, but it's above 80 billion. 80 billion to 12,000 farmers. 12,000 farmers in a 2022 budget. That's allocations. So what we need to do now, we need to see how best we can follow the trend of that money allocated and how it's going to be disbursed to various farmers, because they say 12,000. Trust me, it cannot be by region. It can be who have the expertise in addressing the issues of food security. Because let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, the pre-harvest assessment done by ECOWAS, Chief Ministry of Agriculture, they done the pre-harvest assessment by ECOWAS. They said 2022, 2021, 2022, we are expecting huge food production. All these figures assessments we are doing, we have first predicted bumper harvest. We want to do inland valleys swamp. All of this we are doing, we are focused on it. But how do we achieve them? How do we implement them? How do we follow? So that we have a result at the end of the day. It's not by the assessment only. If ECOWAS has done the assessment, giving projection to have secure food production 2021-2022, what we have members of Parliament will do, let us energize our oversight roles. Let us go to our people. Let us be aggressive in achieving it. Because the President himself said, I need Parliament to help me to solve some of these problems. That's why I said government inclusivity is very key in this administration. Mr. Speaker, there is no way we are going to move behind to look at our own people, to look at the budget allocations as if, as I said, 80.8 billion, which has been allocated for 12,000 farmers, which we need to follow. And don't say that. Let us investigate. Let us stand tall. We said we are giving subsidies for rice production. And Honorable Chairman Majuba on the other side said, why can't we subsidize? For the smart designs, we are not giving subsidies. But Mr. Speaker, just like the schools subsidies, fee subsidies we are giving, there are some principals who will go and say rubbish things inside people. They don't say how much they are getting for fee subsidies. They don't talk about it. But because we don't follow up, we don't do our proper oversight, we are giving them the platform to say so many things that is not correct. So that's why we are exposing all of these things. That is why I'm exposing the people. So, Honorable Leader from the opposition, we are doing subsidies. But believe you me, follow them. You realize that very few maybe will be implementing them. But Mr. Speaker, Honorable members, let me now look at the youth. How do we get the youth? As we said, we want to involve people. Agriculture is not all about one set. It's not all about a region. It's not all about district. But we need to have a complete inclusivity in implementing the agricultural sector for us to achieve food production or rice production. Let me read paragraph 44 page 10, paragraph 44, page 10. You know, in this business, we need to see. Let me read for you, Mr. Speaker. Ministry of Youth has also partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture to establish youth farms and cultivate 9,200 acres of farmland for rice production. They have also developed a new agro-business model that will create chiefdom youth agro enterprises and provide for each chiefdom, including a mini rice mill, mini rice cutter, thrashers, winnower, and an electric scale for rice production in partnership with International Organization for Migration, IMO. 200 young people have also been trained across the country in tractor operation, basic repairs and maintenance. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we need to follow up with these ones. We need to carefully examine some of these things that we have said. They are in place. We have trained them. But Mr. Speaker, the secret behind it is that when they are trained, they get to their respective chiefdoms. This business of Okada riding, is disturbing our youth in this country. Even when they have been trained, because they need fast money, they want to get accessibility to money, to funds. They have got all of the training given to them. When they after collected the money, they just move on. But you know, if we continue to use politics on them, there is no way we are going to succeed in achieving some of these things. If this privilege is given to them, train them, giving them facility to embark on agriculture and have rice production of food subsistency, of food production, embarked on the projection given by ECOWAS, and looking at the 18.8 billion allocated for 12,000 farmers. What are we talking about? If there's no implementation, there's no follow up. If there's no good policy drives, we are not going to achieve some of these things we are talking about. So agriculture is very key to us, and we are concerned. And that is why all of us should come together in addressing this issue of agriculture. It's a matter of fact that we need to involve the young people, because they form the huge percentage of our population. If we fail to bring them in, they have the energy. We need to drive them by incentives, these subsidies we are giving. Let us motivate them. It's not using political slogan on them, but to treat food security as a national concern for all. Let us look at the health sector. But before I get to the health sector, I want to make a referral on some of the things they have said about Tomabon. It has been mentioned by my colleagues on the other side. First, I said we should not politicize, and we should pay attention to what is happening involving anti-corruption. In any drive to undermine the agricultural drive, it's a positive action for anybody, whatever you are or what political party you belong to. The drive in the food production and food security is a matter of concern. If you try to undermine it and bring corruption on it, we take a very big step to expose you. So for the Tomabo project, we have it in two folds. We have one for the construction and the other for the rice production. Having done my consultations with the MP, the Honorable Jockey, and I went to Tomabo 2 months ago on personal business. We realized that for the first phase, what is happening now at Tomabo? Construction of 3 large warehouses and drying floors. We also start next week. The date they give me when I went there, on my own personal drive. Construction of 4 rice mills will also be commissioned by early next month. I'm reading this one. I'm going to follow up with them. They said 5,000 hectares of rice production is ongoing in Samu, Mambolo, and Tomo. 5,000 hectares of rice production. Where seed fertilizers and agrochemicals have been acquired. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, We are not saying this because we want to score political points. We are saying it because we mean business in the agricultural sector. That's why I've highlighted all of the issues surrounding it. Our point to the children of youth, we are giving up the thing that we have done for them and set in place a machine for them to work. But what is happening? Are we committed to achieve some of these things? You have raised issues about Tomabo. I challenge you, the MP this year, pay a surprise visit, the leader of the opposition. If they don't listen to you, expose them. Expose them. I don't want to talk about the funds that you have secured, which you are ratified. In line with this project, let us talk about it. But what we'll be talking about, we have talked so much about food security since Lady President about time.
Transparent leadership.
So can we see reality now? Can we actualize them? As I said, what we are doing is to change the trajectory. And if we say we are going to change the trajectory, it means we have to look at our roles as leaders. And that is what we are doing in the agricultural sector. So it's good if you have found culpable of corruption. We should not be afraid to say, if it's true we are saying, we are going to take you out to corruption. When you squander taxpayers' money or money spent for people, especially agriculture, we will expose you. Don't be ashamed to expose them. Call their names. That's the reason, Mr. Speaker, I forgot to mention one thing. We are so much accepting the audit report with politicians. Audit report, we should not take ownership of them. We should not take ownership of audit report. We should take audit report and expose the vote controllers. We should do that. We should treat it with seriousness. But what he did, our colleague did not capture that moment. What we did, we enticed them by involving them to accept that we use the audit report to expose corruption. But they did not dissociate themselves from it. While they started disregarding the report, and the report, in the strictest sense of term, is purely the opinion of the Auditor General. So recommendations are given. So all what you can do as government is not you. You have the various MDAs. For example, what we did in the last audit report that came out, the financial secretary made a memo, sent out a memo, issued out a memo. He said all MDAs should comply with the recommendation given by the Auditor General. For every office, as you have, Mr. Speaker, you are the head of Parliament. You are the head of Parliament. If there is corruption in Parliament, they cannot say, Mr. Speaker. There is somebody in charge of the vote. You are not there when they are implementing it. Ministers are not implementers. They are not vote controllers. So you resist. You resist if you are being controlled by anybody, a minister or anybody, when you are vote controller. You maintain sanity in the sector. So what we have done, Mr. Speaker, trying to sanitize the institutional structure given to every MDA, we are in paragraph 30. In paragraph 30 of the Finance Act 2022. Let me read. We are trying, all of us, let us dissociate ourselves from what the people are doing who are vote controllers with politicians. We the politicians will give a political drive. If there is a recommendation or recommendations, if there are, we should seek exposing those who are in charge of implementing them, those funds. We should be seen exposing that one. Instead of we trying to defend, cover up, we should not cover them. We should expose those who are involved because they are good controllers. So what you have done in paragraph 30, in section 30 of the Finance Act 2022, cross section 6 for that.
Still having your political lens.
Section 30 of the Finance Act 2022. Subsection 6. Notwithstanding this act or any other law, where a person fails to respond to an query or observation from internal audit, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I really want you to pay attention. Because the business of audit, we are assuming it will take it up with the politicians. We have our own roles. Don't vote controllers. If we check their salaries, it is so minimal. But if we check the investment, it's so huge. It's so huge. And we are here supporting, we are not. We are not afraid as SFPP. We have issued our memos. If you don't comply with the original recommendation, you'll be exposed to anti-corruption. So what we did, we said, anti-corruption, investigate them. Investigate them. We should not take ownership of those reports. Let us leave it to them. Let them defend it. Mr. Speaker, there is no way behind your back. The board controllers who are in charge, who are in the MDAs, they don't protect politicians. They gossip us. They gossip us. Why are we standing here? Calling it, hey, this MDA, hey, this person. I have people calling him the first lady. Forget about that one. Forget about the presidency. Mr. Speaker, you know, if Parliament is corrupt, they say Parliament is corrupt. NACIT is corrupt. Ministry of Education is corrupt. Mr. Speaker, why the ministers would like to take responsibility? Why? Why not say we have a controller? Open the books. Send to anti-corruption. Then we come to that. Then some billing. So what we did, members of Parliament, thank you, bravo, kudos to all of us. So what we have done to ensure that there's institutional structure put in place, and those institutional structure must be followed. Section 30, subsection 6 of the Finance Act 2022. Let me read, Mr. Speaker. Please, I need your attention. Notwithstanding this act or any other law where a person failed to respond to a query or observation from the internal audit, his remuneration, fees, and allowances shall, Mr. Speaker, shall be withheld subject to the authorizations of the Director of Internal Audit until the officer responds to internal audit query of observation. Mr. Speaker, we all agreed to have this, to maintain and have respect for our structures we have in our institution. You know why this clause is there? Because they think because the internal auditors are sent to the MDAs from the Auditor General's office. But when they come, they compromise. That is what is happening. Sometimes it's not really corruption, but some form of maladministration. They don't put the documents together. Even when they write them, we are coming to audit you. They are not bothered. They won't control all. The internal auditors are not bothered. They are never bothered. Are not to the business. Because we politicians, we are taking owners of the Auditor General's report as if we are culpable. Let us resist it. Let us expose the vote controllers that have done the wrong things. If we need to correct what they have given as recommendations, Mr. Speaker, let us be fair enough and make the platform clear for them. Go and defend yourself. Let us not defend it. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, with that said, let us today refrain. Let us today refrain for saying this. Whether he debates it or not, it's not really the matter. It is we stopping take responsibility of it. Let us refer them. When they came last year to audit Parliament, they did not go to Mr. Speaker. They went to the club controller. When they go to the ministry, they don't call the ministers. They will go to the board controller who are the permanent secretaries. Why to audit report is out, you want to take ownership of it? Why? And I agree with my colleague, Etawa, said we should not believe in the past and let us see what best we can do. We will do it. But you know what is disturbing us? When you are trying to interpret the unanimous and voting for the constitutional amendments, Mr. Speaker, for the constitutional amendments, what was very clear that you said there should not be unanimous vote on it. There should be vote counted. And that I know you will use the hazard SO12 to call for the hazard, and you make that one as members for the edification of the house. So for me personally, one day we will try to change the trajectory, to properly examine and come out very clearly, talk to the committee, the audit committee, the public account committee. How do we solve this problem and take this ownership of looking at this report and do our different recommendations? Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let us look at the health sector. You know, as I said, we have said so much in the health sectors, so much. We have said so much, but let me first join President Biu to salute our health workers. Because anything, we learned so much from the Ebola. We had our bad experience. We were in denial. We brought politics in. We did so many things that was not for the interest of the ordinary man and women. By the time we realized that we are doing the wrong thing, we had death all over the place. People are dying. It was disastrous. We did the wrong thing. May Lord have mercy on all of us. So, mitigating the spread of COVID-19, without denial, Mr. Speaker, the president was smart enough to put in place machinery from the lessons learned from the Ebola and said, look, let us put in place a structure that will deal with COVID-19, the corona. So because of the hard work of our nursing personnel, our doctors, our health workers, I want to claim President Bill to salute them. And so say thanks to President Bill for acknowledging the hard work at the peak of the corona. Today we have low infection rate and low death rate because we are swift enough to put in place structures. You see, I am presenting these stories because you have to show leadership. Your leader, you learn from where you had your mistakes and project into the future to protect and safeguard your people. And that is what exactly we did during the COVID. So we embraced everybody. We brought everybody in to address the issue of COVID-19. And that one was done. And today we have the low infection and low death rate. It's very clear that we have agreed from 2021 to 2025 that we should allocate 12% of our budget to health. But Mr. Speaker, when you get to the health sector by sector, there's enormous challenges. Enormous. We are still fighting to address it. There are challenges that we need to address. It is imperative on all of us to see how best we can address them. So from previous low budget allocations, and we are now getting down to 12% of our budget allocation, so that's for the health sector. But there are something that we have done. There is something that we have done. The health insurance scheme. President Bill, as I said, he has even pushed in trying to give the health insurance to our health workers. That one is in paragraph 31. I will not bore you to read it. But it's clearly enshrined. I want the health workers to make use of the moment. He said he wants to give health insurance to our health workers. And that is very key for us. All of us should be talking about SLESHI, the Solidary Health Insurance Scheme. SLESHI should be one of the things that we're looking for. Members of Parliament should be key with that. I don't want to say what we are going to do in the future for MPs, but MPs, and we advocate that we must be giving insurance scheme. MP must be giving insurance scheme. We don't want the money, but let us have the facility in getting it. Thanks to our colleagues working on it. And we push that one so we can achieve that health insurance scheme of members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, there is something very striking in that speech that we have not talked about, which I want to mention. If you cumulate the death rate of malaria, death caused by malaria, it's so huge. When we are at the peak of corona, at that very peak, they calculated the death from malaria. They were, at the time, it was up. When there was more death caused by corona, they are nearly at par. Malaria is killing more people. But let us say thanks, irrespective of the challenge you have in the health sector. In paragraph 36, Mr. Speaker, I will attempt to read this one. It's very important because in as much as we are moving in trying to look at the health sectors, increase the budget allocation to 12% for 2021 to 2025, we need to critically examine this one and see how much we can get more gains in dealing with malaria. We are now looking about reduced infection in malaria. Paragraph 36. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is heartening to see that as a consequence of this far-reaching investments, maternal and child mortality rates have been considerably lowered. We have also reduced malaria-related death by 47%, lowered the disease burden for other common illnesses, and the number of people living with HIV, blah, blah, blah. The president has given us this platform that we have 47% low death rate in malaria-related illnesses. What we should do, we have the responsibility, because proper diagnosis has not been done. Proper diagnosis are giving us challenges. You know, in Bokakaja and Bolambayama, when somebody is feeling sick or whatsoever, exactly, sir, they will just say, "Oh, SO2, typhoid, malaria, and ID. How can it be? At all the time we talk about testing, they will come typhoid, malaria. You check 5 people or 10 people, on average, most of them, 10 of them will come with typhoid and malaria. So diagnosis is our problem. So in as much as we are getting gains, what we focus on is to how do we monitor, do proper diagnosis, so that we can continue to reduce the malaria death-related illness. And that's what we should be doing. So this figure given to us to give us a lot of good if we pay attention to them, and the problem is solved. So that's the reason, even when talking about solving the issue of the health sector, we need to encourage the private sector. We cannot do it alone. Anybody saying we should just talk about health issues, we cannot provide all the things to our patients, to various districts. So by every district, what we do, you try to encourage the private sector to give more hospitals. But what you can plead with them, see how best we can adjust the taxes for them. An incentive to encourage them to come on board so that we can continue to solve the health-related issues. We cannot do it alone. So President Bio has been very magnanimous to say, let us encourage the private sector for goodness sake, so that we can promote the business of healthcare, so that we can achieve what we want to achieve and surmount our challenges, though it's a very big challenge for all of us. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we can continue to talk about these issues. We can continue to look at far-reaching implications if we treat our health sector very carelessness. It is very serious for us. But as I talk about agriculture, there's one sector in the agriculture that we need to pay attention to. That is the fisheries and the aquaculture. Fisheries and aquaculture. Mr. Speaker, we last agreed, and I can still remember, I will start first talking about the fishery harbor. The fishery harbor. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I know you are taking me to wrap up.
We need 2 more hours. 2 hours more, Mr. Speaker. 2 hours. 7 At least 11 o'clock.
Mr. Speaker, I will try to summarize. I will leave most of the things that I will go faster. I can understand. I always want to draw nexus in our policy drives. Mr. Speaker, I have to show these things. We should not be just a wheel carrier, just moving as if we don't know what we are doing. We should not be moving like pendulums. We should be seen, have the consistency in policy drive. In talking about the fish harbor, the $55 million grant from China. In this house, when we came, let me first refer you to page 78, paragraph 78 of the fish harbor, paragraph 78. Please, I just patient. Let me say, I will summarize. I know the reason why I'm saying this. We have received letters from people from Black Johnson. I've read them. But this house is a very responsible house. And the president is really giving us considerations in the issues that we raise in this house. In paragraph 78, under the international belt and road initiative, my government has received a $55 million grant from the People's Republic of China to construct a fish harbor and its ancillary structures. Landowners will be fully compensated and all environmental due diligence will be done. Mr. Speaker, he said, let me push this policy. Let me have a fish harbor. This is the policy I'm pushing. But I saw you an environmental impact assessment. But when we got the agreement, in this very house, we had challenges. People raised issues. We said we don't want to miss out. We are very magnanimous in handling it. We said we don't want to miss out. There are environmental issues where we are going to put this fish harbor. We should make sure that their environmental assessment will be done. It must be done. Again, the other point we raised in this very house, we said our landowners are going to be compensated. We want to see actions taken legitimately. So, months back, the Minister of Lands came to this house that he had acquired a parcel of land. It was laid in this chamber. We argued, we agreed, and we voted on it. But we gave a caveat. Mr. Speaker, I need your attention. Mr. Speaker, I need your attention. We gave a caveat. We said, Mr. Minister, you have not given us an insight. You have not treated it in the form of secret. You have not given us an insight about where you are going to construct a fish harbor. He told us that you're going to be a plateau. People said, okay, fine. Acquire 252 acres of land. People said, and you question, I can remember. He said, how possible is that going to be? So he explained how that we are going to be allocated. Out of that, he talked about the government-owned land. He talked about that very well. So what he done is to do an assessment. And in the presidential speech, I want to tell you that the president will be very magnanimous and consistent and be careful in dealing with these issues. And Mr. Speaker, let me read. Paragraph 47 and 49. 49, I read. You know, we are in governance. We don't want people to hold us accountable at the end of the day. We want to make sure what we are doing, there is complete transparency and there is complete understanding with the people residing in those areas. And we have an understanding. We know it's very difficult to satisfy all of them. But to reach out and solve the problem where there are problems or challenges. It has been the position of my government that Sierra Leone stands to gain revenues from constructing a fish harbor for the notification of the agreement and the survey plan by this August house, that is Parliamentary. I signed the warrant for the acquisition of 252 acres of land at Black Johnson. Compensation of landowners will commence as soon as all verifications of land ownership is completed. That is the great catch That's a big statement that we need to watch. When landowners will be commenced as soon as all verifications of land ownership is completed. He went further because we are key. I remember Yumkela over there. He was very forceful. So I said, he mistakenly mentioned about Black Johnson. And I said, have you seen the location? Is it an agreement? You know, respectfully, he sat down and he said no. But deep down, when they came with the land acquisition, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to see this one. Because I've been very afraid when the minister came with the land acquisition ratification. When he said it's at Black Johnson, I was wondering what to follow next. So today the president, in his statement, he said, environmental, social, health impact assessment, ESHIA, ESHA, studies at Black Johnson are ongoing. Additionally, measures as deemed necessary will be put in place for the success of this process, of this project. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. How do we follow up with Parliament? How do we bring our policies in tune with people representing various people in Sierra Leone coming from different constituencies? This is the way we put in tune our policies with lawmakers. We should not neglect our views. Gone are those days when MP makes their contributions and put forward their remarks and objections and give candid opinion for the good of this nation, and people frown at them and say, no, we are not going to do it. This is a testament of our good leadership. This is testament of good leadership. Mr. Speaker, I can go on. I can move on and on and on. But in going down infrastructure, I want to make a correction. You know, no, I don't go all. I will try to wrap up now. You see, as I said when I started, I said it's good for us to think about the prayers. It's good for us to behave as citizens, as Honorable Ibrahim said. He said so much about you being sincere. And how do you really lead in terms of sincerity? I like when I see our female counterparts making contribution in the chamber. I like promoting them. But just for the record, she mentioned so much about carrying her that we are doing nothing. You know, this is why I want to come and react to that, Mr. Speaker. Because these are the districts that we are, this is the region that the previous administration decided to have additional region in Sierra Leone. So much administrative activity was not adhered to or structures put in place. So when he raised the issue, I was concerned, very concerned. I looked at paragraph 91 of the presidential speech. And Mr. Speaker, let me refer to you. Paragraph 91. For justice-related facilities, my government is constructing correctional facilities in Karine and Falaba, and also building a hospital for inmates at the Freetown May Correctional Center, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just reading the sentence. But when he said nothing is going on, I was afraid. So I saw the provision, Mr. Speaker, and I saw there is some activities going on. But I'm not going to the infrastructural activities of everything. But what came to my mind, Mr. Speaker, what actually came to my mind, I called on Honorable Bill Shaw. He's around. I said, you are coming from that community. I said, please tell us what is going on. He said, at Falaba District, he said, 5 hospitals in Falaba District have been completed. One in Falaba town, Solima Chiefdom, Di Mondu Gudu, Delmangugu Chiefdom, Falabadi District Council is over there. So to say nothing is going on, to say nothing is going on is an understatement. And I really like my colleagues to understand that going forward, we should learn to complement our government. We should learn to understand the dynamics. You can say some actions going on, but really it's not enough for us. That's what it should be. Or you cannot say nothing is going on. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, infrastructure, I will come to summarize, give the general overview. I'm not ending up. But one thing I will encourage our colleagues to look at keenly, very keenly. We have talked about electricity, moving from 16% to 31%, presently to 32%. All of that we look at. Those have been talked about by colleagues. Infrastructure, we have dealt with that, but I'm going to give a general overview. But what is interesting for us to look, Mr. Speaker, you are the victim of our judicial system. You are a victim. Most of us, we are victims of the judiciary. The president said, I am not coming to tell you that I have done this. He said, I'm going to do reforms. Reforms. One of the reforms is the mentality of our judges. You need to train them. Develop in more skills in terms of prosecutions. He also talked about access to justice. Also talk about the visual court system now in place. Mr. Speaker, last week, our judges were at in blue. They are training them on the cyber laws. You see, it's not the making of politicians that the judiciary to use the court to remove members of parliament. It is a law. It's not the making of any politician. It is a law. Honorable Kanja was removed from parliament. Not the court by the then administration, but by the law. By the rule of law. Yes. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, you know what was dangerous? What was very dangerous? What was very dangerous with that judiciary system ruling? The one that came and ended up becoming the leader of the majority leader. He had just over 1,000 votes. 895 votes. Mr. Speaker, and the one whose result was annulled by the court. I want us to really follow these ones. I said we are victims. I'm going to explain to you a scenario that is very odd for us to look at. Yeah? If, Mr. Speaker, if we accuse the judiciary of doing the wrong things, what we should be doing is to look at the institutional structure and reforms. So what happened? The court ruled against us for having Ukanja. But the interesting aspect of it, the guy got, the honorable member then, the former leader of the house, got less than 1,000 votes. And the court allowed that honorable member to take the seat of honorable Kanja. And 50,000 honorable Kanja got. It is not in comparison, it's representation of the people. But that is good. We have all suffered and seen the consequences. For me, in a democratic state, even if the court has the right to do so, let us encourage the court to call for re-elections. Let us encourage the court to call for re-elections. But these are things that we do. So the point you failed to do, to take into consideration, you had the opportunity to change the constitution, make a constitutional review committee, which we had. It came to fruition, but we failed to implement the recommendation by the committee. And you did not put it into action. It comes to a stalemate. But after elections, we'll handle it. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, as I conclude, the police, the honorable leader made mention of the police and history. Mr. Speaker, I know you must be aware. This very house, I can remember vividly when Honorable Fode Radoyuki, I consider him my elder brother. A man whom I was in college with, he was in final honors one when I was year one. I was in the third vehicle, the second vehicle behind the President Yo. And he was attacked and injured. I was in vehicle with Honorable Fode Radoyuki. And when we came, he was accused by some people. And what happened? They filed a charge against Honorable Fode Radoyuki. I want us to listen. You know, and they told us they are going to apprehend Honorable Fode Radoyuki. They told us they are going to apprehend him. I was in disbelief, Mr. Speaker. I was in complete disbelief that it happened. The credibility of this house, for the credibility of this house, I stood firm. And Oversight was stripped off of immunity by former Speaker Ibe Strong. And the court invited Honorable Fode Radoyuki for prosecution. And he went to the court, sitting member of Parliament. And they asked that for the Honorable Radoyuki be accused of arson and also damaging property in Bo. So he was denied bail. He was denied bail. He was accused of arson and denied bail. But Mr. Speaker, what's very striking, I was suspecting our colleagues. I was my left artist. I was in that court. It happened. And he was reprimanded, handcuffed. Mr. Speaker, they took him to a cell behind the court. It's a very stinky place with criminals. He was locked up. I went there with a journalist from 98.1. I shed tears as I speak. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to be emotional, but I felt very sorry for him. Reading the smell of urine all over the place. Honorable Fode Radoyuki was manhandled, was treated dishonorably. City member. And I shed tears. And the lady that came with me from 98.1, they cried. They said they are crying because, not because he arrested, but as plea for dignity of the house. Should have been kept somewhere before taken to Parliamentary. No, that is the genesis of what we are suffering. Thank you. No, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I am not justifying what has happened to anybody. I am giving you the genesis of the problem. I'm giving the genesis of it. It did not stop there. Honorable Robinson Obifale was also arrested and sent to prison. You know, let's talk about it. Let me proceed. So what we can do as members, they ripped us of our immunities by two speaker, and they did not consider us to talk for us. They did not even talk about it in the chamber. They did not even bring MPs together to defend Malaria. We had delegation to president. I met with some MPs in his house. Said, he's our brother. He is my man. Consider that I beg for him. They neglected my voice. I was the best junior MP. So nobody considered me as important, something I'm saying important. But I said one thing. I said, this is what you have done. Which haunt us one day. That's haunting us. But it's not a justification. It's not a justification, Mr. Speaker. It's not a justification. Let us correct the mistakes of the past and stop doing it. I will stop at that. I will not progress with that one. So there is a complete dishonorable way members have been treated since from 2008, 9, 10, etc. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let us all bear in mind that we can always succeed. We can always succeed to change our society. Mr. Speaker, we can always succeed to change our society by doing the right thing. By doing the right thing. So I beg you, let us continue what we can do as MPs. Let us assure our citizens that MPs must be respected. We should not treat MPs as if they are any ordinary citizens. We are called honorable member till death. Till death. Mr. Speaker, general governance under the general principles, under the general governance. You see, we should not use invectives. I need your attention, my honorable colleagues. We should not use invective languages as a way to take us to governance. We should not do it. If we are doing it here, sanity will not prevail in this house. But we are leaders. We are leaders. We are using invective languages, our supporters, as a means of taking us to power. People are adoring Adebayo.
And they are unacceptable.
They are adoring it.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, point of order, sir. I'm not aware of any time in this world where we as leaders, we are using invectives against ourselves. I'm not aware of that. And he is talking to the public.
No, thank you.
I'm not aware of any time where a member of parliament in this world, we are using abusive languages against ourselves.
No.
I think we have been parliamentary so far.
Thank you. I mean, you don't get me clear. Let me come again. Thank you very much. I said, if we are using invective language on ourselves, it should not augur well for us. I am saying people are using invective language, our supporters, as a political to get them to governance. That's what the case I was building. You know, I'm from the opposition to governance. Mr. Speaker, you know, I'm here standing to say the truth. I'm here in governance and I want to stay. But the thing I will tell my colleagues, for the peace of this nation, for the paragraph 3 I read for political stability, we should make our party attractive by policies, not by invective languages. Not by SO2 Mamikos course. We should not do that. Based on policies. But I best I give my colleagues, for the sake of good governance, we should not use invective language as a means to take us to governance, but policy to attract people to vote for our party. That is why we're in governance. We make our party attractive for Sierra Leoneans. That is why we're in governance. And we will continue to stay in governance till death do us part. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me now give summary. For my government in 4 years in office, 3 weeks. A summary, what we have done, not all. And I will start to read them. I will start. This I have to do. 1. IMAT Regent Road constructed. True of us. 170 bedrooms for senior rank military at 4 barrack. True of us. 100 beds hospital at 34. True or false? $34 million Tomamo Rice Project. True or false? $40 million Rumbi Rice Project in Port Local. True or false? Moyamba Junction, Moyamba Town, South Road Project. True or false? The Songo Mamba Bridge Project. True or false? The Mapele Rogbere Bridge constructed. The 7 district electrification project. Kailang, Moyamba, Pujeung, Kambia, Kabala, Bond, Matujon. $1.5 million Sabbath Bridge project completed. One country, Osai, Osayo. The free education flagship program project. The Mashaka electrification project after 6 years. $20 million bakery project in Wellington community. Dr. Kadigas High School in Port Local. The ongoing Kamakuye Kamalo Road Project. The ongoing construction of Koribola Giffy Bridge project. The ongoing Mamama Community Kanigo Community Bridge project. Constituency 132. The ongoing Kono Kwedu Road project. The ongoing Ruta Town Bangbato Road project. The free scholarship program to all students in science faculties at university level. The qualification of Lone Stars to Nations Cup after 25 years. The $10,000 that is cost $100 million. A plot of land to Lone Stars footballers. The 25% salary increment of the Somalia military forces. Mr. Speaker, hey, I will go on and on and on. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is a great pleasure today, with the spirit of oneness, with the spirit of accountability, with the spirit of unionism, I will firmly stand to read paragraph 156. I will. Mr. Speaker, I will just read 156. in the spirit of oneness. One of the reasons why I'm fascinated by bridges is that it always reminds me of the task at hand. Every time I commission a bridge that my government has built to connect communities, towns and cities, I am reminded that the secret to cohesive, resilient and strong nation lies in our ability to reach across the space that appears to separate us. I need your attention, please. That reach across the space that appears to separate us. To build connections between our various groups, realizing that we will all succeed if we work together. Mr. Speaker, I am so pleased if today we have been very magnanimous. You have pointed out the challenges. You have criticized us. It is your place to do so. But today, some of those critics, some of them, you have given us a leeway, a way for us to make our government strong. If we have faith in God, if we believe in the principles of one country, one people, in being of one nation, as Christians and Muslims, Oversight, one for all, or the other one is what? Third one? The third one? One country, one people. We will succeed as a nation with all of the challenges lies ahead of us. We should see ourselves. Thank you. We see ourselves not as political enemies, but differences in political ideologies, trying to promote progress our nations. As we came together to repeal the Part 5 of the Public Order Act in the interest of free journalism, in the interest of free speech, we are government of human rights. We all came together to abolish the death penalty, so it cannot be used against our fellow politicians as a tool of intimidation. So the abolition of death penalty is a justice to judge all of us, that we came together to repeal, to abolish these two vital laws, that we are entering into the fabric of our democracy. So all of us, let us work together. Let us stand firm in oneness for common principle, for the good of Sierra Leone. That is why we have our different mantra. We, as one people, one country, we have a common binding principle and formula. If the SFPP, APC, cum the NGC, cum the C4C, cum the Parliamentary, with a catalyst of good policies, cum the SFPP, Sierra Leone will be a better place for all of us. No more we can use divisive rhetorics to put up behind, but policies that can change this nation for the good of all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. We thank Lord for giving us the space for us to give our views about political issues. We thank God for hearing us. Our people have sent us here to represent them. We thank God for giving us the political space. Years back, there was no space like this. Thank you, President Yu, for making us proud, for creating a space for a real democratic governance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for presiding over us. May the Lord bless you. May you continue to live long. In as much as we have difficulties with you, it's not easy. But one good thing I can tell you, you have worked hard. Shabarapa said, it's so easy to bring a good man down. You are a good man. And all the others in the house, thank you very much. Today, we have had difficult words against ourselves, but that cannot put us apart. There is a principle in driving this nation, the principles of oneness, and the driving forward beyond oneness is good policy. Thank you all. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless us all.
that,
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Thank you. As I said, may the Lord bless us all. So I will use God for the things that we have not done, for the righteousness that are given our people, things that we have said and we are yet to do. May the Lord give us the strength to do them. Amen. And may the Lord forgive us for giving our subjects rather the wrong direction we are going. Amen. But let us stand strong in the faith of God, in the faith of our religion, to rule our people in a righteous way. I now move that this honorable house, having debated the presidential speech for 5 days, with all question the pros and the cons, advices profiled, I move that this honorable house here laid in this parliament of the presidential speech, so graciously delivered on the 10th of May 2022, be adopted by the House, and the recommendations are put forward by all members of parliament that we be taken to various MDs as enshrined in our standing orders for always better governance. Thank you all.
I thank the leader of government business for his contribution to the debate. Honorable members, the question is that we, the members of parliament here assembled, wish to thank His Excellency the President for the address he so graciously delivered on the occasion of the state opening of the 5th session of the 5th Parliament of the Second Republic of Sierra Leone in the Chamber of Parliament on Tuesday, 10th May 2022. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Motion of thanks to His Excellency the President Julius Maada Bio by Honorable Matthew S. Numa has been carried.
With that, any announcements? With that, the House stands adjourned. The House stands adjourned to Thursday, the 2nd of June. Thursday, the 2nd of June, 2022.